Hi, I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and this is Job Search Radio. I'd like to spend some time, most of the week. I think I generally take the weekend off from doing these, but I'd like to offer information to job hunters because it doesn't have to be hard, difficult, painful, or take a long time. Because, frankly, you don't know how to look for a job. The skills needed to find a job are different than those needed to do a job. And what I try to do is to take the mythology out of the job search process. Sometimes the answers to me are crystal clear because I worked in search for more than 40 years before moving into coaching. But now, this question is not so black and white. The question is, should you tell an external recruiter your current salary, and will they tell the employer? Now, here's the bind that you're in. I want to start by saying, this is true in any place that does not prohibit it by law. There's a state in the United States that's, you may be watching this in the year that the law has gone into effect, where it will be no longer legal to ask current salary. I'll explain why. Let me just do it now. The reason for that is once a firm knows the current salary, it can have an adverse effect on what salary offer they make to you. And that's really the bind in this question. Should you tell an external recruiter your current salary? Well, for an external recruiter, what they're looking for is something very simple. They want to know if you're within the price point of the job, and they want to see where reasonably their employer might be able to hire you. And I'll just use an illustration. Let's say you're making $80,000 a year. Their position pays $75, just for the sake of argument. You're looking for a raise, but unless they ask you the question, they don't know this, right? They don't even know your salary, and you will waste your time and an employer's time, and they can risk losing a client sending you to an interview. That's the bind that they are in. They want to know in order to make sure that your salary is appropriate for the role. And you can turn around and say, well, they can tell me the salary range for the job, and I'll tell them if that's good enough. It's not quite the same. And just using that salary range, it goes up to 75. Well, I'll use a different example. Let's say you make $45,000 a year, the position goes to 75, and you turn around and say, yeah, I'd take 75. Well, the fact of the matter is their employer isn't going to pay you $75,000. They're not going to give out, a $30,000 raise to you. And the recruiter wants to start persuading you about what's reasonable, and maybe it's 55 or 60. Still a big increase for you, but it's not the 70 or 75, right? And people get crazy in these situations, and they demand the highest number possible. They're not worth it to the employer. They cost themselves opportunities. So that's the bind that the recruiter is in. I know for a lot of recruiters, and certainly when I was in search, if a job hunter wouldn't tell me their salary, if they wanted me to play this second scenario, I ended the conversation. I had no patience. I didn't want to get into fights. My client would ask, and that's going to bring me to the second question. They would ask what a person is currently earning. I have to answer the question, because in their mind, they're not going to give out that $30,000 raise. They want to know what the person's making. They have their own formulas internally for what percentage increases they can give. You want to speak in terms of value. Often HR is bound by policies that indicate percentage increases. And that, again, becomes the bind that the agency recruiter has and the corporate recruiter has. They may see your value as being worth 65, but for whatever the reason is only able to pay 55 because that's a more than 30% increase on your $40,000 salary. And you have a choice then. Do you want to walk away from a 33% increase or more? Again, you can play hardball, and that's your prerogative, but this is probably what will happen. The employer is not going to interview you any more than I did. So, should you tell an external recruiter your current salary? If it's legal in that state to ask the question, I believe it's Massachusetts, that's the one state that's going to be implementing a law to prohibit the question, yes, tell them the salary. Will it cost you a few dollars? No, because the employer is not going to give you the full Monty. A $40,000 a year person, reality says, is not worth 75. You may think you are, but experience says that you're not. I want you to hear that. My experience says that there's a difference in capability today between a $40,000 a year person and a $70,000 a year person, a $90,000 a year person and a $130,000 a year person, $130,000 a year person and a $200,000 a year person. Get my point? Think about the people in your organization. There's a difference in experiences that each salary level has. So should you tell them, get it over with? Indicate what you're looking for, that you're not willing to compromise. That's a better approach to it than simply saying, no, I'm not going to tell you my salary. And will they tell the employer what you're making? You bet. And if your salary range is out of whack with what the employer is willing to pay, the employer's not going to interview you. That's the way it goes. So I'm Jeff Altman. I hope you found this helpful. If you're interested in my coaching you, I give no BS advice. So you may not like my answers, but they are what my experience shows. And yes, there are exceptions. I'm sure you'll be able to bring out an exception to me about this one, but more than 9 times out of 100 what I'm describing is true. I'd love to coach you. Reach out to me at thebiggamehunter.us. Review the services that I offer. I'd love to help you. And connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the-big-game-hunter. Mention that you listen to the show, because I love hearing from folks who have been able to help. It makes me feel good, to be honest with you. And I'll lastly say, have a great day. Take care.